Awesome. Hey, everyone. So excited to go live this afternoon already.
Is it afternoon?
Yeah, it is afternoon
Wow.
already. We've been having so much fun this weekend. We are in Savannah, Georgia. Ryan and I and the kids have met up with the Hamptons. And you guys need to meet this family because they are absolutely amazing. I'm sure a lot of you are already familiar with what they are doing. But if you're not familiar, we are going to talk about this afternoon. So this is my friend Yvette Hampton. Say hi.
Hello.
So Yvette is a homeschool mom, and her husband and her felt God calling them to create a documentary about homeschooling. And if you ever wish, and we put that up there for you guys, if you ever wish there was a way for all the people around you to really get this whole homeschool thing, because I know some of you guys, your parents don't get it, your siblings don't get it, your friends don't get it. If there was ever a way that people around you will grasp this whole homeschool, why do we do what we do? Why we forsake our careers to be home with our children, educating them? Well, this documentary, it's all about that. So, Yvette, welcome. Thank you for being here.
Yes,
thank you for I'm actually at your house, in your studio.
We're in our studio, the Schoolhouse Rocked Podcasting studio.
I'm so blessed to be here with you guys. So tell us a little bit about you guys. Tell us a little bit about what God has called you to do, what you guys have been doing this past 3 years, and where God is leading you.
Sure. Well, do you want the long version or the medium version or the small
We can go
version?
with the long version. That's
Okay.
fine.
I won't go too long.
I have a long cup of coffee to go. So.
Well, a little over 3 years ago, we felt like the Lord was calling us to film this documentary on homeschooling. And at the same time is that we really felt like he was calling us to leave California. We're from Southern California. And we just felt like he was saying, go. It's time to go. And we didn't know where we were going to go. So we trusted the Lord, and we just kind of put that fleece before him, and we put our house up for sale, and it sold immediately. We sold pretty much everything in the house.
That's faith, guys. That's faith.
We sold up everything. We don't have storage or anything. We just sold it all. We got a little travel trailer and loaded our 2 daughters up in the travel trailer with us. And on December 15th of 2016, we drove out of California, kind of aimlessly, actually. The only thing we knew...
right before Christmas time.
Well, it was right before Christmas. And so the only thing we knew, our only solid plan was that we would be in Georgia by Christmas, because we have family in Georgia. Half of our family is in Savannah, Georgia. The other half of our family is in Southern California. So we promised our girls we would be with family for Christmas. So that was our only destination. That was the only thing that we knew for sure. And other than that, we didn't know where we were going to go, where we were going to settle. We just knew God was saying go, and that we were to film this documentary on homeschooling. And so we did. So we took that leap of faith, and God has been faithful in the process of the whole thing. We started filming in, I think it was August actually of 2016 is when we started pre-production on the movie and started filming. And God has he has just done miracle after miracle in getting the cast together for the movie. I mean, we didn't know really anybody in the homeschool world. You know, we knew our immediate friends and our homeschool community in California, but other than that, we didn't really know any of the like homeschool speakers on the speaking circuit, and you know, authors and bloggers and people like that. And so God just kind of placed all of these people in our laps and said, here you go. And he brought us a phenomenal cast for the movie. But it's not just the we didn't go out to just interview the experts on homeschooling. You know, we've got Andrew Pudewa and Connie Albers and Sam Sorbo and Heidi St. John, of course. She and I actually do the whole narrative of the movie together. So she's our biggest cast member in the movie. But Ken Ham, Brian Osborne, Colleen Kessler, Pam Barnhill, Sarah McKenzie. We just have an amazing cast that God has placed in our laps. But in addition to them, we really wanted to show homeschooling for real people. And so
they are real people.
They are, I know. Those are the fake people. I mean, everyday normal homeschool families.
Yes.
And so we have,
not those on the spotlight.
Right.
Those
right.
who are behind the scenes.
Not the
homeschooling their
experts.
kids. Yes.
But we really wanted to give a very realistic view of what homeschooling was. And so we have filmed interviews with your typical everyday mom who homeschools her families. We've interviewed kids, we've interviewed university professors and college students and teenagers and second generation homeschoolers. And so we really wanted to get a very broad perspective of what homeschooling was across the country. And so we have filmed in, I think we've actually filmed in somewhere around 7 or 8 states, but we've actually filmed interviews with people from many different states. So I would say we probably have 15 to 20 states represented in the movie, because we didn't want to just get, well, this is what homeschooling is like in California or in Georgia. This is what homeschooling is like around the country. And so it's been an amazing journey for our family. We finished filming this past summer. We took a 7,000 plus mile trip from Georgia up to Washington State to finish out the movie with Heidi St. John, and that went so well. I mean, God just had his hand of blessing over that time with her. And if you've ever heard Heidi speak, you know that she's a very gifted communicator.
She is a blessing. I love her.
She's amazing. And so God really used that, and he just miraculously opened the door for us to be able to meet up with her and her family when she had a break in her schedule, which is a near impossibility with her schedule,
so busy.
Especially during homeschool convention season. And so God orchestrated that. So we were there for 2.5 weeks, filmed the rest of the movie with her and with her family, and at the Homeschool Resource Center that her family runs there in Vancouver, Washington, and then traveled back to Georgia. And so we finished filming, and now we are in post-production, which for those who don't use the terms of post-production, it means we're pulling the movie all together now. So now it's time to put the 3 years of filming that we've done into 1 hour and a half long movie.
Which is really hard because you guys have like...
Yes.
I don't know how many hours of footage. It's like how...
We technically have between
news and
B-roll and stuff. We have, I think, over 100 hours.
And you have to condense in an hour and a half.
Right. Or we'll just make 100-hour long movie. It'll be the longest movie in the history.
No,
it will be an hour and a half. But the cool thing about that is that we are taking a bunch of the interviews. So, like, for instance, Heidi's, her original interview that we had done with her was about an hour and a half long. Well, we obviously can't do an hour and a half long of just Heidi's interview. So we have formed what's called the Backstage Pass membership site.
Going to say that unless you have access to the Backstage Pass.
It's so cool. And so people can actually see the entire full interviews from all of our cast members. And those were still rolling out as we're pulling the movie together.
It's so inspiring. I have watched several actually there. And they are so encouraging. They are so inspired. They are so down to earth, practical things, experiences that their parents have had in their homeschool journey, and how much we can learn from it. And it's really amazing what you guys are doing. So I'm just going to back it up a little bit here. So you guys had an Abrahamic calling. Go to the land I'm going to show you. Basically, leave your land right now and I'll show you where to go. And you guys sowed everything. I mean, that's a huge step of faith. You guys are family after our own hearts, because that's the way that Ryan and we are. We're not attached to anything. If God tells us, leave everything and go, we'll go. We've done this several times in our lives. But it's not common to see that in North America. It's just not common. People are so attached to stuff. They're so attached to their homes and their cars and whatever they have. And it's really hard just to say, here I am, Lord, send me. Because most people will do what the young guy did to Jesus. He said, when he said, I've kept all your commandments, what else can I do? Jesus said, go and sell everything and follow me. And he didn't. Right? So it's amazing to see a family saying, here I am, Lord, send us. And you're willing to sacrifice and to leave behind everything that you're doing and put everything into going around the country, meeting with homeschool families, and get the reality of homeschooling in all of those different places, all those different backgrounds. Because listen, we all come to homeschool for a different reason. It's not like everyone comes to homeschool because of the same reason. And we always come into homeschooling with a different perspective, and we have a different journey, we have a different experience. So to be able to capture all of those things and then create a way, create a, a venue to show this, not only to people who homeschool, but to people who have been considering homeschooling, and to even people who have never considered homeschooling. It's an amazing gift. It's an amazing project. And I feel that as a homeschool blogger and a homeschool mom, anyone involved with homeschooling should come alongside you guys and support you and help you in whatever way we can. So even if it's just sharing the trailer out there, go to their YouTube page, subscribe to their YouTube, go to their Facebook group, subscribe to their Facebook, follow them on Twitter, follow them on Instagram, whatever they have a social media account, make sure that you're following them, so you're actually giving that social proof, that validation, so other people can come and follow them and share as much as you can. So I want to ask you guys, first of all, I think I hear someplace that you did not plan to homeschool your entire life.
We did not plan to homeschool. As a matter of fact, we were married almost 11 years before our first daughter was born. And
which is an amazing story.
That's another whole story in itself. But once Brooklyn, our oldest, was born, then all of a sudden now we've got this baby that we've waited for so long. And as she was getting older and getting to school age, we said we'd never, ever homeschool. And the reason for that was because we had so many misconceptions about what homeschooling was, which is why we're making this movie, so people can really see.
And by the way, we're not wearing denim skirts.
No. Actually, both of us are wearing ripped jeans right now.
We are. Because we're holy people.
Our holy jeans. We just didn't understand it. And so as she was getting closer to school age, we had to figure out what we were going to do. And through a series of events, the Lord just made it clear that homeschooling was what we were supposed to do. And, I've told the story, but it was so funny. I remember standing in Trader Joe's with my friend Jody, and she said, "You guys should come to a homeschool convention with us." And I literally remember saying to her, "You have a convention for homeschoolers?" I mean, my brain could not imagine that there could be such an event that would take place. And then we went to our first homeschool convention a few months later, and that weekend, the Lord just opened our eyes to what homeschooling was. And we went into homeschooling really, truly, honestly, it was out of fear, because we were fearful of her going to the public school that was in our neighborhood. And we didn't feel fearful of any public school ever, but we were very naive about really what was being taught in the public school system at the time, because we didn't have kids yet, and we really weren't paying attention to what was happening. But it was more of a physical safety thing for her. And so that's why the Lord brought us into it. But then after we went to that convention, and the more we've gotten into homeschooling and just realized that homeschooling is discipleship. It is us discipling the hearts of our children and teaching them the things that God has called us to teach them in His Word. And no one else is going to do that better than we can as their parents. And so once we really had that conviction, we were like, oh, well, this homeschool thing is very different than what we thought, first of all. And second of all, this is best for our family. This is definitely what God has called us to do. And so in the movie, we want to share what homeschooling really is. But yes, we said we'd never homeschool. And so we really want to help just kind of debunk all of those negative stereotypes and misconceptions that so many people have of homeschooling.
That is so amazing. And I know Heidi was kind of the same way too, right?
Yes.
She wasn't planning to homeschool.
Oh, yeah.
She really landed on the homeschool thing. Kind of against her will. And
she calls herself an accidental homeschooler.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of accidental homeschoolers out there. In my case, we were living in Jerusalem when Benjamin was born, our first son, and I remember there was this really awesome kind of international people who were serving in ministry in Jerusalem and having their children there. So there was this little awesome international community of homeschool parents that I ended up being friends with some of them. And my baby was 9 months and I was going to homeschool meetings with him. So I wanted a homeschool. And I had this in mind that, at 9 months old, I was trying to do finger painting with my boy. And then when we moved back to North America, we just landed into this North American lifestyle that everyone is so busy. Everyone needs to work to pay bills and buy more. And we end up actually, because we were so busy working in full-time ministry, that we forsook I won't say our ideology, but our desire to homeschool our children. And we did what everyone does. We went with the flow. We just put my son in a public school. And that was a horrible experience for him and for us. They ended up sending us books to read to him at home that I would never even read to myself. And he was 4 years old at that time. It was absolutely brutal. The whole gender identity and sexual, sex education curriculum was already in the schools in Ontario, Canada at that time. And we were just horrified. So we pulled him out of school. And I remember that right before we pulled him out, we had Creation Ministry coming to our church to speak there. And so coming from a Jewish background, and it's just to tie it up with what he said, coming from a Jewish background, you don't get Jewish kids and send them to Muslim schools. You don't get Jewish kids and send them to Catholic schools. I mean, that's just not how it works, right? So this guy is speaking about the educational system, and he says, why is it that we Christian parents feel that it's okay to handle our children to be raised by a godless system that is going against everything we're teaching them at home and against everything that we're teaching them in the church, and we think it's okay? When the statistics shows us that 80% of the Christian kids that go to public school will abandon their faith by the time that they get to college. And for me, that was like the last drop. That was like the last point of conviction that God gave me, that I said, I have to take my kid out of public school, and we need to disciple them at home. And no one will do a better job in discipling them than we as parents, as godly parents. Yeah. So for us, it was the reason why we did this. But there are many different reasons. So there's reasons because of food allergies. Mm-hmm. Kids that have severe food allergies, and the parents have to bring their kids home and teach them at home. There's all kinds of different reasons. But going back to the documentary, how are you guys raising the money to do all of this stuff? Because it costs hundreds of thousands of dollars. I think, like, if I'm not mistaken, it's like $1 million project.
It's yes, when it's all said and done, it'll be close to that. It's very expensive to make a movie, and
a great quality movie, which is what you guys are doing.
Yes, oftentimes, and if you go to schoolhouserocked.com, you can see the trailer. Actually, both trailers just there on the front page. We believe that because this movie is going to reflect God. This is God's movie. It's not ours. It's a movie that He's called us to make. And in order to reflect His goodness and His excellence, the movie needs to be excellent. So yes. We could throw together a cheap movie, and it won't be very good quality, and it won't be great. Or we can make an excellent movie like He's called us to make. But in order to do that, it costs money. And so the Lord has provided for us through production. We are now in post-production, and we are very much in need of funding to get through post-production. The post-production budget is about $198,000 that we need to still raise to finish the movie. And then after that, then we need marketing money, but that's the easier money to get once the movie's actually done. So we have a very critical and immediate need to raise $198,000. And I know it sounds like a big number to most people, but we have to constantly remind ourselves that, God owns the cattle on 1,000 hills. He does. And it's all His money anyway. Yep. And He's going to provide for us. He has provided through, homeschool families in the past, and through just generous donors to get us to this point. But we're at a pretty critical point right now where we really need to get this money raised to get through post-production. And you and I were actually talking yesterday about the story of the Israelites and how they came to the edge of the Red Sea. And this is a story that just continues to come back to us over and over again. And that when the Israelites came to the edge of the Red Sea, they had this massive sea in front of them. And they've got the Egyptians, who are coming after them. And they're standing there and they're like, oh no, what are we going to do? Yeah. And I was telling you that, I really have thought a lot about this story. And I thought, if they had come to a little stream or a little river or even a lake, collectively they could have figured out a way to get across that water, because they could have stacked some rocks or some logs or, I don't know, played piggyback rides or whatever.
Yeah.
They could have figured out a way to get across, because God had given them the intelligence to be able to do that. I mean, you look at the bridges we build today, they could have figured out a way. I don't know if they could have done it before the Egyptians would have reached them, but they could have figured out a way across. But God didn't bring them to a small stream or river. He brought them to a sea.
Into a situation that only God himself could get them out of.
Right. And even in that instance, they couldn't have said, well, clearly God's going to split the water and we're going to walk through on dry land. I mean, that had never happened before. So all they could do was just pray out to God and say, God, we're going to trust you to open this, or we're going to trust you to get us across this sea and to get us out of this situation. And God did, because he's a faithful God and because he had a plan for them. And so we're very much in that same place where we know, God's brought us this far. He's brought us all the way through production. And we know he's got a plan for us. We know for certain that he's called us to make this movie. He's opened up way too many doors, and there have been way too many miracles for it not to be part of God's plan. And so, but we're really standing at the edge of the Red Sea right now, and we really, really need the Christian community and the homeschool community to come around us right now, because again, it's not our movie. We need people to come around us right now, rally around us, and help us get this movie done. And whether, we've had people who donate $10 because that's what they can afford, and we've had people donate $5,000 because that's what they can afford. And so wherever you fall on that spectrum,
we were talking yesterday how, if every person that watched this video would give $1, or every person that's in your email list would give $1, I mean, we could get so much more done for this project and help you guys. So here's the question. How can you, watching this right now, come alongside and support this family, support what they are doing? We're not talking about them building an empire for themselves. Like, everything that they do, you guys, is for the glory of God. Like, they're right now, they're living with their in-laws. I mean, every penny that comes in, they're putting into this project. This is really a labor of a lot of faith and trust in God, and being able to fulfill that calling that God has put in their lives, which is to create this documentary where a lot more families can demystify. Is that the word?
Demystify is good.
Yeah. Okay. Good. All of those things those stigmas that they believe about homeschooling that are not true, and to learn to have a better understanding what education really is.
Right.
See, I feel like it wasn't until 3 or 4 years ago, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, that I didn't even understand what education really was. Mm-hmm. I thought education was only academics, and it's not true.
No, that's actually a very small part of academics.
And we were talking about that yesterday, that what we do as parents is really prepare our kids for eternity.
Yes.
So what we're doing as homeschool parents is not preparing our children for SAT tests, or not preparing them for a college or for a career. What we're doing as parents is it has to have eternity in our minds. Eternity needs to be the goal, right? That they can succeed in every area of their lives. But ultimately, if they succeed on everything, but we fail them to lead them to Christ, into a life where they're God-feared people, they're walking according to the Word of God, and they're actually saved, they're prepared for eternity in heaven, then we actually have done a disservice to our children.
Right.
Because our ultimate goal is that we're raising mighty men and women to further God's kingdom in this earth, and that will be we'll have an eternity in heaven with the Lord.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Oh, I agree completely. That's what it's all about. Everything that they learn should point them to Christ. And if they do go off to college or trade school or whatever road they take into their adulthood should be for the glory of God, and it should be to impact God's kingdom, because God has put them here on purpose and for a purpose, just like he's put you and I on this earth on purpose, for a purpose at this time. And so it's our job as their parents to direct their hearts towards Christ.
Yeah.
And there's no better way to do that than to be with them day in and day out, and constantly redirecting them. And no one else is going to do that like mom and dad.
No,
there are
absolutely.
some great teachers out there, but their teachers cannot possibly take each individual student and guide their hearts the way that they're meant to be.
No, and also because they are forced by a system that does not allow them to,
Right.
if you look at the public schools,
yes.
I mean, basically what the public schools are doing in terms of our faith and values and family values, undoing everything that we try to do at home, or undoing everything that it's tried to be done in an hour of youth group or an hour of Bible school or Sunday school every Sunday, which we know it's not enough to disciple our children. It's not enough to lead them the way that they should go, because we know that we're trying to do a 1 hour, 2 hours work every week to be undone in 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, for 12 years of their lives. Right?
Yes.
So,
and I want to say too about the movie, it's not, Schoolhouse Rocked is not just to encourage people to come into homeschooling. It also encourages those who are homeschooling currently.
Yes.
So we've talked to a lot of moms, and we've done several interviews with moms who have already graduated their kids, including Heidi. She has graduated, I think, four of her 7 kids. And so we talk to those moms who just say, just stick with it. It's going to be worth it. It's going to be worth
rewarding.
The tears and the angst and the frustration. There are so many blessings that come from it. And so it's not just bringing in the new families. It's stick with it. If God's called you to this, He is going to equip you with everything you need in order to accomplish what He's called you to.
Yes. And let me tell you this, nothing is going to mold and shape your character as a godly parent as homeschooling does.
Yes, that's true.
Nothing is going to make you more like Jesus every day. Because let me tell you, it's one thing for you to kiss your kids goodbye and send them out all day and just see them in the afternoon. It's another thing for you to be with your children every single day, 24 hours a day. And let me tell you, I would never trade that 24 hours a day with my children for anything in this world. Like, I would never, because I know my children deeply. They know how much I love them. And God, just every day He gives me the grace that I need and the wisdom and the discernment that I need to educate them and to love on them. And the other thing too about homeschooling is that homeschooling not only allows you to disciple your children and train them the way that they should go, that's what the Bible calls us to do, right? To teach them diligently. But also, He allows you to parent the heart of a child like nothing else will.
Yeah.
Right? When your child is being bullied in school or whatever is happening in school, you're not there to watch it, and you're not you're right there with them.
Yeah.
There's this bond, there's this beautiful relationship that you can build being with them at home that away from you, it's just not going to happen.
Yeah, I agree. It's funny because one of the reasons that I always thought I wouldn't want to homeschool my kids is because I thought, actually, why would I want to be with my kids all day, every day?
I hear that so much.
It just seemed so daunting. And I thought, why? Who does it? Because it's not how our society works.
Yes.
And then, as I was with my kids and I had this baby that I had waited for 11 years. I waited to hold this baby in my arms. And then I held her. I was like, I really happen to like her.
And she's a keeper.
She's a keeper. And I have a theory about this because so many parents have said to me, I couldn't homeschool because I couldn't stand to be around my kids. And you see,
how sad is that?
You see posts from parents, as the summer's ending and kids are going back to
they're
school.
so happy that the kids are going back to school.
Or
I'll be heartbroken.
Right. They go on their Christmas break and they can't wait for them to go back to school. And I believe that the reason for that is because you're letting those parents are letting someone else train the hearts of their children and discipline their children and correct their children. And so your children are not acting in a way according to what you and your husband would want for them. But when they're with you, you really tend to like your kids because they're part of your family. I feel like when my kids are not, and I have times when I'm not with them. I'm not with them 24 hours a day. I do take little breaks. But if I'm away from them for a long period of time, I feel like I'm missing a limb.
That's how I feel, like I'm missing a limb.
Right. And I love spending time with my kids.
Yeah.
I genuinely love spending time with them. And the time is going so quickly. People told us when Brooklyn was born, and then again when Lacey was born, enjoy them. The time's going to go by so fast.
Yes.
And Garrett and I were just
the days are long,
this.
but the years are short.
Man, I can't believe she's going to be 14 next month.
Wow.
And I'm like,
and she's amazing, you guys.
we just
She's
found out
amazing.
last week that I was pregnant with her. How can she already be 14?
Yeah.
It's overwhelming how quickly it goes. And to
You
think
just
that I would
know
have
super quick.
missed all of this time with her.
Yes.
And with both, I say her, with both of my girls, I love the time I spend with both of them. They are both such an answer to prayer and such a joy and a blessing to us.
We have such a short window of time to pour into our children's life.
Yep.
It's like somebody told us that we only have 18 summer with our children. I don't believe that because in my culture, we don't kick them out of the house when they are 18. I actually was home with mom and dad until I was 30. But that's a different story. That's my culture. We're very family oriented, and a young lady will not live on her own unless she's married. But what I'm saying is that we have a very short period of time to raise them in godly character and influence their lives in a manner that is godly, that is good, that is, why would we just let somebody else do that for us, and we will miss the chance to impact that child. So for me, like, I don't want to miss any chances to raise my kids the way that God wants me to raise my kids. I don't care what the system wants. I don't care what the government, wants.
Right.
I don't care what culture. Like, we're very countercultural when it comes to homeschooling. I mean, we're the people who are going against the grain.
Yeah.
We are not in the
No,
Bible.
it's becoming much more accepted.
It is.
Everywhere.
It is. And I'm very thankful
Yes.
because the Bible clearly says, do not be conformed to the patterns of this world. So we do not have to go with the flow. By the way, I always say that the only thing that goes with the flow is dead fish. If you look at the streams, seriously, watch the salmon. The salmon is like, we have a salmon spawning ground behind our place.
Okay.
They're so purpose-minded. They know that they need to go back to the place where they were born so they can spawn there, right? And they go against the stream the whole time. I mean, they fight bears, they fight eagles, they fight so many obstacles to do what they were called to do what God was created to do. So I think we need to be mom salmons too.
Okay. As long as we don't smell like it.
No. But what I'm saying is that God has called us to raise these children for His glory, and we should be going against the flow, against the grain, and do everything and kill the bear and just overcome mountains, whatever is needed. So we know that by the time that we're going to stand in the presence of a glorious holy God, He will say to us, "Well done, my good and faithful servant." And that is what I want to hear.
Yeah.
Right?
Amen. That's our job as parents. So,
Yeah.
But yes, so we're rolling with it. We're working.
We're doing our best every day. We're not perfect.
Yeah, we are not perfect. Yes, and we would love the help of people to get through posts. And I'll tell you 3 ways specifically that people can help us. The first way is, of course, to donate. We desperately are in need of just funding for this movie. Like I said, it's about $198,000 is what we need to get it done, and every little bit helps. I often feel like the guy on the street corner holding the sign that says, every little bit helps. It really does. Yeah, and
the kids can come up with amazing projects to raise their little money jar and help the Schoolhouse Rocked project. So maybe we need to involve our children. Let them watch the trailer. My kids were blown away last night. We were watching the trailers last night, and let them come up with their lemonade stand. Let them come up with their craft sales. Let them come up with, even like if they feel like their Christmas money should go towards that. Involve the whole family. How can we not order pizza this week so we can actually help this project to go forth and to be done and to be completed, so other families will benefit from it, so we are going to benefit from it, the whole community is going to benefit from it. So just food for thought.
Yes, thank you. And really it is a benefit to the homeschool community, because we truly believe, and most do, that this movie will grow the homeschool movement, the homeschool community as a whole. So donating, that's our huge financial need. Prayer, of course, we need a lot of prayer. We have an enormous task ahead of us to pull this movie together, and it's a lot of work, and we can only do it by the power of God.
Yes.
You went to church with us yesterday, and we heard a great sermon, and he was talking about bringing the fish and loaves, and all we can bring to the Lord is what we have. And that's what our family has done. That's what we're trying our best to do, is just bring to him what we have. But we cannot do this alone.
Yes.
And we need a lot of prayer. We need you guys to come behind us and just pray for us. Pray for God's provision. Pray for our sanity. Pray for our rest.
Pray for favor.
Pray for that the Lord would show us favor in just getting this movie done and out. And then the last way is to connect us. So donate, pray, connect. Connect us with people who, share this video with others. Talk with people. If you can go to our website, schoolhouserocked.com, and find out a whole lot more about what we have going on. But connect us with people who may be able to help get this movie funded, or who are just strong prayer warriors,
Yes.
or who somehow have some kind of influence, or just be able to help us get this movie done and into people's hands. So donate, pray, connect.
Yes.
Those are the things that we need. I actually spoke with a gentleman. I don't know if I told you this story, but I spoke with a gentleman a couple weeks ago, and he does fundraising for a living. And I said, how do you find people to contribute to these different causes? And I think of these horrific, evil, wicked causes like Planned Parenthood, and they're able to rally
millions of dollars
to
kill babies.
To kill babies. And so we're trying to just rally people to get a movie done about homeschooling so that we can show people what an incredible impact this can have on your family. And so he said, well, you need to find your cupbearers. I said, well, what do you mean by that? And he said, well, remember the story of Joseph and Pharaoh, and how Joseph had become buddies with the cupbearer and the chief baker. And so they both had their dreams while they were in prison. And Joseph said to the cupbearer, he said, remember me when you talk to Pharaoh. The cupbearer goes. Joseph had interpreted his dream correctly. The cupbearer gets to keep his life. The baker, unfortunately, thought I wasn't a baker, or that it wasn't a baker, but that guy lost his life, unfortunately. But a couple years later, then Pharaoh has his dreams, and all these people are trying to interpret it. He's got magicians coming in, and all kinds of people, and nobody can interpret his dream. And the cupbearer says, oh, wait a minute, I remember there's a guy named Joseph in prison, and he can interpret dreams. So you should talk to him. So Pharaoh, of course, calls Joseph in. Joseph interprets his dreams, and there's the rest of the story.
Amazing.
It's an incredible story, but the purpose in that story, in this situation, is that had Joseph gone directly to Pharaoh and been like, hey, I can interpret your dream for you, Pharaoh would never have listened to him, because he didn't have a relationship with Joseph. But Pharaoh had a relationship with the cupbearer, who then spoke on Joseph's behalf and said, I know a guy.
My mind is just going here, right?
I know a guy who can help you. And so because the Lord used the cupbearer to speak to Pharaoh on behalf of Joseph, that is what we're in need of. We're in need of people who maybe know people who the Lord is either, blessed financially, or they have some sort of resources, or they just, they have connections, whatever that would be, to connect us with those people. So we're looking for cupbearers. Yeah. That's where that whole story is going.
And think about it. Well, we know people, and perhaps you don't know, I'm thinking all kinds of things here, but maybe you don't know the president of the United States, but the leader of your local homeschool community. And you can reach out to the leader of your homeschool community, and together you guys can come up with an idea and a way or fundraising to help them. So let's just come alongside them. And basically what Yvette just told me, they need sponsors, they need intercessors, and they need connectors. Those are the three things that they need right now. And I am sure that each and every one of us in this community can come in alongside those roles. If not just with one, with multiple ones, because you can be all three of them. So we want to just ask you guys to come alongside and help us to help them. And let's get this done, guys. Let's get this done. So thank you so much for being here.
Oh, thank you for having me. It's been such a pleasure. And we just recorded
Thank
a
you
podcast.
for having me in your studio.
Of course. We just finished recording a podcast that will be on the Schoolhouse Rocked podcast.
Yes, and I shared the page already, but we're going to share later on to our email list as well. Yep. And go and watch it, and make sure that you share this. Can you share this interview as well? Share on your Facebook page, share on your Facebook groups that you're part